Hello and welcome to the first edition of the CanesWear Podcast on the Fin Sports Network. And I'm excited to have this opportunity to ramble and talk Canes football. And I have a special guest today. I will be a regular contributor of the show, the one and only Brad Tejeda. How you doing, Brad?
Brett, I appreciate you always, Brett. Let me have the opportunity to discuss some Canes football, man. You got CanesWear, Canes football, Brett and Brad. I can't think of two better combinations, man. So I'm happy to be
Brett
here.
and Brad show. I love it.
I love it,
Stuff.
man.
Excellent stuff. I knew when we met a long time ago when you called me up and he said I want to give you a review. And I said, really? I'm thinking like, okay, who's this guy? And he said, I want to give you a really good review. How do I give you a review? And I don't know if you remember that. That was probably about 8-9 years ago. And then
You were the first review I've ever given out.
Are you kidding? Wow, I feel honored because I remember that like yesterday. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm thinking in my office of the store, and I'm thinking some guy wants to give me a review. Who screwed up something? That's what I want to know. And the review is great. And now we've had a great relationship. We've been great friends, and it's been an honor. And that's the best thing about this whole thing with the store and it's being a Cane fan is that so many people that we meet, Brad. It's just awesome, right? I mean, family. You get a second family, and that's an awesome thing, isn't it?
No, I couldn't agree more with you, man. You hit it right on the head with the word family, right? I think anybody that has been a Hurricane fan throughout their whole life, whether it was your mom or your dad or your grandparents, or your uncle taking you to your first game and you passing it down to your kids. I know you and me both have children as well, and we've been blessed to have those opportunities with our parents, and now being able to pass those down to our kids is definitely something special. And me having the pleasure and the opportunity to speak to some of the current players, former players, and some of the recruits that possibly will be Hurricanes in the future. That's one of the biggest things they talk about with this coaching staff every year. The environment from the fan base is just that family culture and atmosphere. And it's just a pleasure to be able to have a podcast and discuss Canes football and still have that family CanesWear atmosphere.
Absolutely. Like, and what's the saying, Brad? It's more than give me this the Canes saying on the family.
It's more than just a fan, right?
Yeah, it's more than just a fan. It's a family. So, and we like to think of our not only the Canes family, but the CanesWear family. We've been doing this now for 14 years. We started off in a little warehouse, and it's blossomed into just the best thing about what we do at CanesWear is we meet people like yourself. We develop amazing friendships. Families. We see kids grow up, and it's been awesome. And the great thing is that it's been an awesome opportunity to meet everybody, and when they come to CanesWear, it's an experience. I like to think, not just a store, it's an experience. So we have some great things going on, Brad. It's almost at the eve of the game, the big game. Okay, the game of the year for right now. Okay, and Miami going to Gainesville, and we got a few things going on. But how you feeling about that, Brad?
Before this season began, I think it was last year or the year prior when we found out that Florida was going to be on the schedule back-to-back years, right? That was before we had Cam Ward as our quarterback. And I think we could all agree as Cane fans, you didn't know what was going to be on Florida's team. You didn't know what we were going to have. But at the end of the day, you were hoping that it would be, a good contested match, at least on paper. And fast forwarding to today, I think landing a guy like Cam Ward has really fast forwarded your program as far as from a building structure of the type of caliber guys that you've been able to bring in the last 6-8 months. You talk about a Damian Martinez, Sam Brown, Mish Powell, to go along, with your Kiko Mainoas, your Ruben Baines of the world, Xavier Restrepo. And this is probably the best on paper team that Miami's had since, 2002, 2003. And you go back to those 2 years, and that is when this Florida-Miami rivalry, was at its dominance. You talk about September 7, 2003, Brock Berlin's first time ever in a Miami Hurricane uniform, battling against his former team in Florida in the Orange Bowl and making that victory. Or the year before in 2002 when we were loaded with Ken Dorsey, Andre Johnson, and others, and going into the swamp and manhandling him. I cannot wait for this game. As you know, man, this is in my backyard. This is something I've been counting down for a while, man. And I think this is going to be a game for the ages. I know you and me and others got to experience or be around that game back in like 2017, I believe, when Miami and Virginia Tech and Notre Dame back to back. Those were atmospheres you can't you can't duplicate those. And I think if you're able to go to this game this weekend here in the Swamp, that's going to be an atmosphere you're going to want to be a part of.
Yeah, so you're right. That Miami Notre Dame game, Miami Virginia Tech, that November in 2017, when we rose all the way up to number 2, the excitement, the energy in that game was phenomenal. And you're right, we have an opportunity. You mentioned several players right there, and a few years ago, that may have been all the stars of the team. Okay, now there's so many more. There's depth after that. We've got player after player after player. I have to say, Mario and the coaching staff have really put together the most depth we've had in a long time. At almost every position is stocked, and I'm very excited about that. You said Cam Ward, the number 1. We got him. He was going to go to the end. We thought we had him earlier. He was going to go to the draft. He chose. I mean, he would have been drafted. Probably would have been a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder. The way these quarterbacks are going, probably would have been a 3rd. Who knows? Maybe it would have been a 2nd if he would have done well and if he would have done as well as we think in the combine. So, but he decided to come to Miami, which is amazing. And now, if he can have a year like we're expecting him to have, he can be a 1st-round draft pick. So it's exciting right now. All the different transfers, the guys that are returning, the schedule. So we start off Saturday night is the big game. We have a couple of parties Friday night. The first party, Brad is hosting. Tell us about that, Brad. What you're doing on Friday night?
Yeah, so from 5 to 7, over at V Pizza, we'll be hosting about 75 to 80 Canes fans that'll be joining us. We'll have a full food spread. Drinks will be included as well. We'll have 2 amazing raffle gifts that we'll be doing some raffles on. Also, our guy Bo Bradbury will be doing a live painting that we'll be doing a silent auction on as well. Some former alumni and some great guests that will be there as well. Not only Brett and CanesWear, but we got Alex Dono, Gio Million, Danny Boy Kane, John Michaels, and others. So, I mean, it's going to be a loaded, great guests and awesome fans that will be traveling up here in Gainesville to help us party it down. And then we'll be making our way across the street over to your event. Well, what's going on over there at Capone's, Brett?
At Capone's, we're gonna kick that off at 6 o'clock. So I'll be at Brad's party first, and then we'll be heading over to just right around the corner. What is it, a block or 2 away?
Block and a half away.
At Capone's, we've got an awesome party sponsored. It's the CanesWear party. It's going to be Capone's in Gainesville. It's a new bar. It's awesome. I haven't been there. Brad says it's fantastic.
Beautiful.
We're gonna have Lamar Thomas there as one of the hosts. We're gonna have Uptown Dale as well. We've got quite the group. We plan on having about 500 Canes fans and former players. It's going to be an exciting time. 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. We're selling tickets still. We had an early bird special going through to the end of the day today at $39, and you got yourself a $20 CanesWear gift card, a $5 raffle ticket. We're gonna have a bunch of good raffle prizes and a CanesWear swag bag, and today's the last day. So if you're seeing this after Tuesday, 8/20, what are we, the 6th today or the 27th?
27th.
27th. If you're seeing it after today, then you'll see the newer price that'll be up there on our website. But it's going to be an awesome party. It is going to sell out without a doubt. So if you haven't got your tickets, grab them because it's going to be a fun time. And the most important part is while we're all getting together, we're going to have fun. All the Canes fans are going to have fun. But it's all about the season, and picking up a win is the big thing here. So it's the first game of the season, so we'll go with an early prediction. I saw from Dolphin Derek Browse put out there. First question is, how many wins, Brad, do you think we're going to have this year?
Shout out to our guy, Dolphin Derek, by the way. You talked about at the beginning of the show, me being a loyal customer. I'm pretty sure Dolphin Derek was right there from the jump, and he's been not only a loyal customer to you, but a loyal fan to every South Florida fan.
Absolutely, 100%. He's
shout out to him and being a great dad and role model to his son, man, who's doing his thing in high school football right now.
Absolutely. He'll be at the party, but his son Ethan has a game on Friday night, so hopefully he kicks off the season and gets a win.
Absolutely,
So,
man. But yeah, now going back to this question, right? How many wins do we expect this year? I think the easy answer is probably 10, right? I think
mhm.
this is the first time in a very long time where it's not just Miami Hurricane fans that are being dramatic or that need to be more realistic. For the first time, and I would say since I've been alive to where I can actually understand what's going on TV and reading articles, this is the first time I've been alive as far as Hurricane fans where I don't have to go to a Gainesville bar and start talking crap to a Gator fan about Hurricanes football, and they just start laughing at me and saying, "Oh,
Mhm.
this is just another year." Well, guess what? It's not just another year because you turn on ESPN, you turn on CBS Sports, you go on Twitter, you check Instagram, all these sports media outlets. I mean, and these sports media outlets are growing by the day. There's so many of them. They're all on the same page as Miami Hurricane fans now. We are expected to do very well this year, not only because the playoff picture has now upped to 12 teams, but this is a Miami Hurricanes team on roster, on paper, that productivity wise, you look at the names that are there from transfer, programs and from the guys we've been able to develop in the last 2 to 3 years under Mario Cristobal. This is the year it's got to get it done. I don't think I've mentioned this before, Brett, but this could be Mario Cristobal's not only biggest game ever as a head coach, this first game against Florida, but I could almost argue that this is the biggest game in Miami football history, dating back to almost 2002 in the championship game against Ohio State because of this reason. If you don't beat Florida this year, with
Mhm.
this roster, not only do you think are you going to beat them next year, but when are you ever going to get over the hump of winning in a big game in a big atmosphere with this roster if you can't do it this year?
A great point. Like I thought last year going into opening game against Texas A&M was huge. Okay, that game was huge. We hadn't been an SEC team, but that was at home. It was a different story. All right, that game was huge. This game takes it to another level, and we saw how we started off last year. We were playing awesome, lights out, 4-0, and then we hit some roadblocks, and the season did not turn out the way we wanted it to. But this year, Mario has accumulated more talent than he has had, okay, more depth. The positions that we needed help on, we've got. I mean, the position that we need the most of any team is the quarterback. We've got that. We've got depth at quarterback, and he's added everything. So this is the game. Is when is the last time we won in a hostile atmosphere? That wasn't our own home stadium, because that could be hostile sometimes too to the Canes. But when's the last time we won a big road game? We didn't beat Florida a few years ago. We outplayed them. We should have beat them. We didn't beat LSU when we went up there. We went to Dallas, right? When's the last time we won a big road game?
This may sound sad, Brett, but this was a hostile environment, and they did almost upset us, and they upsetted a team prior. Do you remember when we played at Appalachian State?
Oh, yes.
And how crazy that environment was.
Yes.
And I mean, we thought, I mean, they were going into this game where I think they upset a team the week prior, and everyone on ESPN was like, oh, they could upset another team in Miami this week. And thankfully we went in there and got it done. But that was a hostile environment. But unfortunately,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, we haven't been a respectable team on these big time games. And I mean, even before the snap is even played, these rosters and players prior, you could tell in the pregame warmups for these big time matchups, especially, in Arlington, Texas, when we played LSU, at Clemson during the COVID year, these guys were going into the warmups already defeated. They didn't look like they wanted to be there. Not to mention, you had offensive linemen that were 6'2", 6'3". Your starting left tackle, never played college football and weighed 240, 50 pounds, giving up 10 plus sacks against Florida and Orlando. We don't have that anymore. I mean, to your point, the depth from beginning to end in every position group is night and day. And that's just a huge kudos and credit to Mario Cristobal and this staff. And I mean, this defense, we had a top 25 defense last year where Florida was right under 70th in the nation, right? Miami was a top 10 rushing defense in the nation last year. Florida was around the 80th mark. Miami was tied for 19th with 35 sacks last year. And that's a depleted defensive line Miami last year, where we really only had Ruben Bain. You got to remember, Akeem Mesidor was out and hurt. Nigel Kelly was banged up most of the year. You didn't really have any guys you could rely on but a true freshman, Ruben Bain. and yet we were still 19th in the country in sacks. Meanwhile, Florida only had 22 sacks compared to our 35. So that's a huge, big difference. And yet we are bringing back a lot more production from other programs that have been quality guys or starters. And Florida's on the reverse end. They're looking kind of similar to Florida State. They're bringing in guys from other programs that either don't have the productivity or they're playing guys within that don't have the productivity. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup, especially in the trenches.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. I remember being in a North Carolina game. I was next to the game they celebrated the 1987 champions. I was next to Steve Walsh, standing up, talking to him. And he said, you know, look at the difference in the size of our guys versus their guys. Look at our offensive line versus their defensive line. He says, Mario said that was Mario's first year. He said he's not going to be able to really compete at that top level until he has the size. And he's been working on it. And he's I don't know if we're there yet, but we're just about there. I heard a stat, I don't know if it's true, that his first year when he came on that late year, he came on, it took him a while for us to name him the coach after he had left. And they said from that recruiting year, that early recruiting time that he had, there's not one player left on that team. Is that correct?
Have you said that one more time? You cut out. You said that first year.
His first recruiting year for Miami, the year he came on late, okay? Yes, he was, it was back and forth. Everyone that he recruited that season is not one person is on the team. I don't know if that's true or not.
I believe that's correct. I believe maybe just one guy. I would have to relook at the class, but that seems pretty accurate. Yeah. I mean, we weeded out most of those guys, right? I think
that's amazing. Those are the guys that that he picked, not Manny Diaz, because we have a few of Manny Diaz's guys, right? Manny Diaz, I thought got a bad rap. I mean, I liked Manny. He did the things he needed. He brought in Jalen Phillips. He brought in a lot of different players. I thought Manny did. He just, he didn't have the opportunity, I believe, that Mario has now. And he wasn't ready for prime time. It was his first coaching job. I mean, you come out your first time, it's a little different. Hope he does well at Duke, just doesn't beat us.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving different as a program from a football and a athletics standpoint as well, right? I mean, between the Canes connection and support that we have behind not only football but baseball and basketball as well, it's night and day from when Manny Diaz was first hired as the head coach. Correct. But a lot of that has to do with bringing in a guy like Mario, who has seen what it takes to be at the top, has been around, a blueprint of Nick Saban, right? I think this is kind of that next step to what, Coach Mark Richt was trying to do for this program before he left, right? I think he was starting to see, what Mario is doing. Mark Richt kind of started this program and kicked it in gear to get to where we are today. And Mario kind of just took over and did what needed to be done. And now him in year 3, this first game against Billy Napier, these are two coaches in their third year that are desperate needed to have big time seasons this year. And unfortunately, one of these teams in Florida, they have a very, very difficult task ahead of them. Not only this first game this weekend, but they gotta get some wins somewhere, because their schedule is the hardest in college football, not only this year but next year. And who's to say Billy Napier's not still the coach after this year?
Exactly. He was I know a lot of Gator fans that were very happy when he came on board. But we know in this day and age in college football, in any sport, it's like you need to win immediately. And now it's a little bit easier to change the roster faster. You couldn't do it back then, but the transfer portal has obviously not only helped players, but it's helped teams. Because before it was a whole different story. You need 5 years. Now, I mean, you need to win quickly. Even Mario really needs to win this year. Not the championship, like you said, but I think most Cane fans want 10 wins, okay, at a minimum. And especially when they're talking on ESPN, on ACC Network, everywhere, they're talking about Miami as like, basically a top 12 team. I mean, everybody's expecting them to be in the final 12, okay, which is great. I'm glad they got rid of, when we won our championship against Nebraska in 2001, it was just the top 2 teams. We never made the top 4. So that's good. They got that. They got rid of that. So now the top 12 starting, this is our time.
Brett, before we continue talking some Canes football in this matchup, you talk about how change of a roster with this transfer portal and how quick things can happen, right? Another thing that you got to change your mind as far as going on a website and looking at some great CanesWear merchandise, right? There's times where I may add something to the cart and order it, and then I quickly change my mind, and I got to hit up you and Jeff and the gang over at CanesWear, and you guys quickly change it for me, and then quickly get it to my front door. So you talk about changing your mind and having quick instincts. CanesWear also does that. Where can they find you at CanesWear, and also the website as well for everyone listening?
Thank you very much, Brad. Yes, it's an exciting time. Jeff was just, he was going to be on the show with us. He said to me, Brett, I got too much work to do. Not a good time. We've got to be, we've got to get ready for the season. He's putting out a ton of this women's Zuzats items, really cute items for women, from tank tops and things like that. Because CanesWear is not just about the men. Everyone thinks, oh, I need a new t-shirt, I need polo. We got plenty of women fans also, plenty of Lady Canes. We've got obviously a lot of kids items, but you come to our store in Davie, our brand new store. Actually, we're in there just 1 year now. It's basically our fourth. We have one location, but it's the fourth time we've moved. We've expanded, thankfully, because of our great CanesWear family. 2655 South University Drive in Davie. The Spot South Florida Fan Shop, the Spot Miami Fan Shop, or CanesWear.com. Visit us at CanesWear.com. $99 and up is free shipping. Lots of new items are coming in. We get a lot of exclusive items, and we are an independent store. In this day of big stores, of a lot of names, sometimes one company is running everything. All right, it's but CanesWear is independent. If you buy it from us, you call us on the phone, you speak to Brett, you speak to Jeff, you speak to John or Ken or any of our great team. You're talking directly to the store. You don't have to say, where can I get that phone number? It's right on our website. You can talk to somebody live. If we don't pick up the phone, call us again. You can send us an email. I mean, we do our best. Customer service is really what it's all about. And at CanesWear, my favorite line is always, it may be all about the you, but it's all about you, the customer.
Absolutely. You can't agree more with that, man. Anytime I walk into CanesWear, it's like, wiping my feet at my own front door. You really feel like you're at home. I mean, it's all the time. You said it best, man, especially with the kids. It's very tough in this day and age to find great kids merchandise for your favorite fanatic team, and CanesWear has it all. So I couldn't agree more with that, man. But yeah, back to this Hurricane Gator talk.
All right,
man.
Great lead there, Brad.
Great back to this Gator talk, right? So we're just a few more days away from Gainesville becoming Canesville, and I can't wait to have Brett, CanesWear, and the rest of the team and the fans to join me up here. Give me your 3 keys, Brett, to the game for Miami to win this weekend.
All right, excellent question. I was going to ask you a similar question, so good job. So keys to the game, all right? I've always said in games like this, in the days that we had in the 80s, the 90s, 2000, you always had to find someone, a couple of players that say, we are not going to lose. Michael Irvin would say that. Randall Hill, Lamar Thomas, guys like that. We are not going to lose this game no matter what. Okay, we're not going to lose this game. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, other guys, we're not going to lose this game. And that's what we need. We need a couple of guys, no matter what happens, are going to make a difference, okay? They're going to be determined. They are not going to lose this game. So number one, it's not even on the field. We need it mentally in the heads. We are not going to lose this game, whatever it takes. If it's Restrepo returning a punt return, okay, making a catch. If it's Cam like tucking the ball down and getting that extra yard, whatever it takes, we are not going to lose. The offensive line blocking, the defensive line, breaking down their offensive line, getting to the quarterback. So they just have to have the attitude, because to win a game, Alabama's, the Clemsons, the Georgias, they know going into the game, they know they're going to win. Mm-hmm. We played Notre Dame in 2017. Those players knew they were going to win. And before you knew it, it was a blowout. So that's what we need. We don't want them to think like, wow, we're actually winning this game. So number one is the mental attitude. That's number one. I mean, number two is offensive line. Okay, and defensive line. I'm going to pay both lines because it's all about the trenches. Okay, you can't win. I don't care if you have the greatest wide receivers in the world, if you've got the greatest running backs in the world. You need to be able to block and beat that guy. If it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, we got to be able to hand the ball up the gut and get that first down. We need to protect Cam. Cam could be fantastic, but you know what? If he's running for his life, we're in trouble. Now, we all believe the offensive line is going to be fantastic. Last year, for the last few years, we've thought we've had the best offensive line. And then, what happened to that great offensive line? Our defensive line as well. I mean, right now we are stacked on both sides of the ball in the trenches. So we control the line of scrimmage. All right. Obviously, little less mistake. I think our skill players will do well. Limit the mistakes. That's always the case. No fumbles, no interceptions. We need to win the takeaway game. All right. And thirdly, third downs and fourth downs. We've got to convert. I mean, too many years we've been one of the worst teams in football in converting. So my keys to the game: mental attitude. We got to feel we can win before we even get on the turf. All right, we got to control the line of scrimmage. We got to win the takeaway game, and we got to convert the big possessions, the third and fourth downs.
I love it. Those were
How about yourself?
Three great takes. I love those. Mine's going to be pretty simple. I think the first one is going to be communication, right? I think anyone that has never been to a Florida Gator football game or experienced a swap, the atmosphere there is something that can't be replicated. Unfortunately, no matter what our team has practiced during fall camp to try to replicate the atmosphere, what's going to happen, you're not going to be able to duplicate that. And with the new headset communication rule, one of the things that I have found interested in, if from other coaches that have experienced these things, there are a lot of moments where this communication of the headset cuts out a lot and very frequently. And being in a loud environment like the Swamp, if you are heavily relying on just the communication aspect through a headset in a loud environment like the Swamp, you are going to run into a lot of issues. So I think communication from the coaches all the way down to the players and the headsets, along with having backup communication things like signs, whether it's a physical signs or hand gestures, you need to have all that in place in case this communication with the headset is something that is not as valuable as you think it will be week one in a crazy atmosphere like that. So communication is number one. I think number two, to your point, I agree with you, winning the turnover margin. I could remember, the game that we played in Orlando against Florida. Like I said earlier before, we had a starting left tackle that never played that position at 240 pounds soaking wet in Zion Nelson that gave up 10 or 11 sacks by himself. And yet we were still in that football game till like the final 3 minutes. And a lot of that had to do with the turnover margins, especially on our end. We had a botched fumble on a punt return. We had a fumble. We had a fumble on a big time running game as well, right? So winning the turnover battle, not only on offense and limiting those turnovers, because as we know, as great as Cam Ward is, one of the downsides to Cam Ward in his whole career has been holding on to that football with the fumbles. We got to make sure on offense we limit those turnovers, and then on defense we create those turnovers. Graham Mertz is a quarterback that gets the ball off very quickly. So as great as our pass rush is, a lot of times our pass rushers are probably not going to be able to get to the quarterback because he's going to be able to throw the ball within 2 seconds, which is also going to go to my third point, creating big plays and winning those big plays. Graham Mertz is a quarterback and Florida is an offense that do not create the big plays down the football field. That's not who they are, and that's not who Graham Mertz is. Part of it is because of their offensive line, and part of it is just because they don't have the skill position guys that they didn't have last year, in my opinion, with a Ricky Purcell and a Trevor Etienne now gone, and you have a quarterback in Graham Mertz who just doesn't throw the ball down the field. He's only thrown the ball, I want to say 10 or 11% of his throws last year were 20 yards or more, which is very low in my opinion. And then you look at a guy like Cam Ward on our end at quarterback. This is a guy that is a gunslinger. He's very similar to Patrick Mahomes, where he's going to test the defense athletically with his arm in many different ways, and he's going to create those big plays. When we had Shannon Dawson as our offensive coordinator and another guy at quarterback, we were trying to go vertical. We were trying to go deep. Well, that happened a couple games until defenses figured out that our prior quarterback couldn't do anything on a certain defensive scheme. And once people did that, there was no more going vertical. I don't expect the same thing with Cam Ward. So my number 3 is winning the big plays.
Those are great points. Turnovers, the big plays. You're right, because so many times I remember that fumble, unfortunately, and sometimes the fans will get on a player, and that kid, it was a Tyreek, obviously, He's doing well in the NFL. I mean, it was second round draft pick, came over as in the transfer portal, had that one mistake. We've had other mistakes that have cost us the game. The big play. Don't lose out on the big play. And the Georgia Tech game last year, obviously, after what happened, after we had a chance to go to 5-0. That was a big play that beat us. The big play, and that's the winning attitude. The winning attitude, guys, do not give up the big play. Derek Browse, great point there. Right behind me, to my right, is the Cam Ward jersey. Yes, we do carry the Cam Ward jerseys. We carry it for. We have an orange, we have black, we have green. We've got some white coming in. We do have also the Cam Ward jersey on basketball, and we are proud to say that we are officially doing work with Cam and his family. They are outstanding, and we're excited to see those jerseys fly off the shelf as he starts getting in the games. Brad, just a couple of other quick points. One thing I'd like to do this year is Bobby Melendez, who gave us the opportunity here. Thank you so much on the Fin Sport Network. He said that we can have up to 10 people on the screen at one time, and I think that'd be fun, a little round robin like on ESPN. So I know a lot of podcasters, it's just two guys talking all the time, but you know what? Just shoot me a text or a tweet or send it to Brad and tell us you are interested in being on the show, and we'll call you up during the show, because it's all about, let's just have fun. Let's all celebrate the Canes together, and so that's what it's all about. So it doesn't have to be one or two people talking. We'll have a 10-way ruckus up there, everybody having a good time and talking sports. All right, even bring your favorite beverage, whatever you want. We can just have a good old time. So thank you very much, Garrett. Best store in the world. I appreciate it. You have a great name there, young man. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you when you come back in there. So we're excited. This has been an awesome opportunity. Brad, key players of the game. Who do you think is going to make a difference in this game? Give me a couple of players that you think are going to be the reason the Canes win.
I mean, I think the easy and obvious one obviously has to be Cam Ward, right? Mm-hmm. I think if we had any other quarterback currently on this roster, or quarterbacks that ended up leaving this roster before the season started and going to other programs, even if we had those guys, one, I don't feel as confident going into the Swamp and having those type of quarterbacks be able to handle the atmosphere that's about to happen August 31st. Where with Cam Ward, he's experienced those atmospheres, playing against at Oregon, at Washington, and with the type of talent that he had surrounding him compared to what he's going to have now here at Miami is going to be night and day. So that's the obvious one. But my personal ones, if I had to get a guy on offense, I think it's actually going to be Damian Martinez. I think Damian Martinez, there is a reason why this is a bell cow running back. And in college football, you don't get many of those very often. A guy that is just guaranteed to get you around 100 yards every single game, and can break multiple tackles and can really be elusive in the second level. And I think when you look at this Florida defense, I'm a little skeptical on their defensive line and their linebackers. Just a lot of guys that don't have much productivity or very many starts under their belt. And I think a guy in Damian Martinez is really going to let it loose on this Florida team. I believe his first ever snap, Brett, in a Miami Hurricanes uniform in practice, he took it 70 yards for a touchdown.
Wow. I
expect the same thing, hopefully maybe first snap in an actual game in a Hurricanes uniform against the Swamp. I like Damian Martinez on offense. On defense, I got two guys. I got Akeem Mesidor first and foremost. I think Ruben Bain is the obvious guy that is going to probably try to get double teamed. And we have too many guys on this defensive line group that they're going to be able to have the mismatch on our end. And I think Akeem Mesidor is already a mismatch because he could play inside and outside, similar to Ruben Bain. And he's coming off a year where he didn't play much last year. He's coming off an injury with a lot of vengeance, a lot to prove. And he's been the most improved and the best player overall in fall camp so far. So I like Akeem Mesidor. And then the name that I'm going to throw out there is O.J. Romanis Frederic, true freshman from St. Thomas Aquinas. I think this young man is going to get a lot of early snaps as a true freshman. He's not going to start, but I think he's going to get some quality snaps, and then he's going to be put in some tough situations. And I think he could really prevail and really show what he could do in this Miami Hurricane uniform on this first week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How do you think it's going to be the distribution with Martinez and Fletcher? Fletcher's back 100%. They've announced. And how do you think that distribution is going to go in this game?
I mean, in an ideal world, I would say about 25 carries, maybe 15-10, right? But, I mean, you could fluctuate that between the two running backs. You got to also remember you have a guy in a Jay Allen who had 5 touchdowns last year, and he was splitting carries with 2 or 3 other running backs. So he's already familiar with being in this type of rotation where he's kind of the 3rd or 4th option, but yet he's still very productive. And he's another guy that's going to have a chip on his shoulder that I think can really do some stuff, especially in this first week against Florida. And then Chris Johnson Jr., his sophomore year, here at Miami, he didn't get much playing time last year because he really needed to put some more weight on him from a physical standpoint. But this is a guy where you can't teach speed. And Florida has a lot of speed, but this is a guy that's probably going to be the fastest guy on the field, and that's saying a lot. He ran a 10.22 in the 100-meter in high school from Miami Dillard. And he's a guy that I'm looking out for to create big plays. Like we talked about earlier, one of the 3 keys for me is to create big plays, and he's a guy that could definitely do it. So I think it could be a more of a running back by committee, even though Damian Martinez and Fletcher are your 1-2 punch. I could see other guys between Allen and Johnson getting another 5 to 7 carries and keeping you around that 35 to 40 carry mark and still having a good contribution from everybody.
So if we go 35 to 40 carries, how many times we're going to throw the ball? I mean, how many plays do you believe we're going to have? I mean, I know before Dawson wanted to have 80 plays a game, correct? So what do we want now? We're not in a fast-paced, hurry-up offense. So what do you think realistically a team can have in a regular game?
I think there will be opportunities where we are going to go up-tempo, especially with this new headset rule and the communication. I think that's one of the things that are going to benefit a lot of programs, especially a quarterback and an offensive line that are very athletic and can be on the same page. I think that's going to help a team like Miami. I think all in all, realistically, about 70 to 75 plays. So if you're running the ball around 40 plays, that gets you around 35 to 40 as well, passing, which is right on point with how Mario Cristobal kind of affiliates his offense every year at Miami. He's more of like a 48-52, 53-47 type where it's more running, a little less passing, but all in all, it's close to 50-50. And with Cam Ward at quarterback, we are going to throw the ball a lot, but you brought in Damian Martinez and you got this great offensive line for a reason. And we were one of the top rushing teams in the ACC last year. So I like where we stand with those guys.
No, I agree on that. I mean, I think both Restrepo and George were the guys on offense that are going to be special. I know they had the game, at the beginning of the season, Texas A&M. I think they're both going to be great, valuable assets for Ward. I think we've got a lot more assets than he's ever had before. He had an excellent season last year. The team obviously did not perform on the field outside of him. Now he's loaded with talent around him. So I think Restrepo is going to have a big game. I think those two will hook up a lot. I think George is going to have a couple of big plays. I think Kiko on defense is going to have I saw Garrett said Kiko, but I do believe Kiko is going to have I think it's going to be special this year at the middle linebacker. And I do think, I know Bain, everyone thinks Bain. He's going to be, I think he's going to be moving around a little bit more this year, right? I mean, it's last year was more right, and he was in the middle. I was in the outside, correct? Which was
he was all over the place last year just because we were so depleted at defensive line. We had guys banged up left and right, and he was the only consistent guy. But with some of the defensive linemen that we brought in from other programs, you talk about Elijah Alston and also Tyler Barron. Those are two guys in particular that have very unique skill sets as far as pass rushing. So when you put those guys in, it allows you to have the opportunity of guys like Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain to still be on the field all at once. I think that's going to be probably their NASCAR package this year with all 4 of those guys on the field. And then you have the ability to have guys like Marley Cook, Simeon Barrow, and CJ Clark to maneuver on the inside and still have the flexibility to have Ruben Bain and Mesidor on the outside.
And we've got 5 stars that won't even be playing, right? I mean, when's the last time you can say that?
Yeah, exactly.
Where they weren't forced into action. So quite amazing there is. A couple of other notes, a couple of Canes that we wish we had this year. Obviously, 2 guys. Leonard Taylor is going to be playing, right? He's going to be he made the team. I think I said Matt Lee made the team, correct? I would have loved to have Matt Lee back here again this year. I think any other Canes that you saw that made the team? Obviously, Cam made the team, correct?
Cam Kitchen, James Williams, Javion Cohen. I think all those guys made the roster, and I think Cam Kitchens and Matt Lee didn't even have to suit up or play their final preseason game.
That's phenomenal.
Because they already stamped their spot. So big ups to those two for being true rookies in the NFL and still getting a pass on that final game of preseason, because that's usually where that second and third and fourth position battles are really valuable in the NFL. And the fact that they didn't even have to suit up really goes to show you the work ethic and the athleticism and talent that those guys provided in the NFL. So, I mean, more guys from Miami getting added to rosters and more Florida players getting cut from rosters. So it's pretty bad.
Well, that's a good thing. And most of those guys could have stayed this year, right?
Yeah.
Would have improved our depth immensely. So yeah, the program, I mean, I have no problem if guys leave and they make teams and everything like that. We want guys to leave when they want to be when they're going to be a first round draft pick or a second round draft pick. If you're going to be lower than that, give it another shot. Cam Ward, I said he could have been a third or fourth rounder as a quarterback this year. Joe Burrow would have probably been a third or fourth rounder. He came back one more year at LSU, and look what happened. I'm not saying this is going to be LSU of a few years ago. Okay, but a guy like that comes to play. He's here for one reason. He wants to win and win big. So,
absolutely.
Brad, what's the score? Give me the final score.
Let's end this one with our final score predictions, man. First and foremost, I can't wait again for all the Cane fans to get here in the next few days. Me and Bo Bradbury will be taking over Gainesville probably Thursday night. We'll see what we can do here in Gainesville to make sure that these Gator fans know that we're coming before Saturday.
I saw Bo just painted the wall there, didn't he? It was an awesome job.
No, that was when we did it back in 2019.
Oh, that was the 2019 one?
Yep. So we did it in 2019, 2020, and 2022. I think we missed 1 year, but we've been doing it almost every year together. And I think we're gonna do it. I think Thursday night. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna spoil anything yet, man. But final score prediction: I'm gonna go 35 Canes, 17 Gators.
I like it. I'm gonna go 31-14. All right. So, but with the Canes on top. But hopefully, one of us is right. And we're both right there or close, or the Canes disappoint us and they win by more points. And we say, wow, we could have had more. Derek Browse, 38-17. We're going to be doing some fun things during the season. We're going to have score guesses and games and things like that. We're going to put other people on here. Guys, thanks for joining our first podcast, the CanesWear Podcast. Thank you, Bobby and the Fins Sports Talk Network. If you're on YouTube or wherever, like it, subscribe, follow us. We're going to be doing lots of fun things. Brad, you were amazing like always. Definitely think there's an opportunity for you. Will Manso is going to be at our party, he told me, from Channel 10. Other guys will be there. Think there's an opportunity for you somewhere along the line in sports. You are phenomenal, and I'm not just saying that. Nobody knows Canes football like you do. Thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate the kind words, Brett. And as you know, man, that we're family, man. You said it and hit it right on the head at the beginning of the show. This Canes community and fan base, man, it's all about family. And we've been growing as a relationship throughout the years, man. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk Canes football and also be a great friend to you as well, man. I'm looking forward to this event. It's going to be a big one, and let's finish it off with a big W this Saturday.
Absolutely. Big W this Saturday. I'll see you Friday night. See all the Canes fans and alumni and players. It's going to be one exciting weekend. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. So long from the Sunshine State. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe.